ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Bread Radio. I'm your host, August Acker, aka Bread. Bread Radio, of course, is a podcast with video games. We're on to episode 18 on the 18th of December, that is. Week up until Christmas, the last day of Hanukkah, I believe. And if you like what you're hearing here on Bread Radio, you can listen wherever you do to podcasts, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube. I don't know. I can't think of any other podcast services right now, but iHeartRadio, for example. If you're interested in merch, you can look at merch at breadradio.live. And if you'd like to support the podcast, you can do so at patreon.com/breadradio. Really have a couple of Patreon supporters on there. Really appreciate the support. It means a lot, honestly. It keeps us going here. But we'll chug along. Anyway, if you have any emails, corrections, want to see our opinion on a game, want us to know your opinion on Game of the Year, want to tell us your favorite bread product, you can do so at breadradiolive@gmail.com. 2 weeks in a row, I've got my co-host here, Greg Teplitsky, a.k.a. Wayne Gregsky, a.k.a. Larry, as we have fun on Steam playing CS. Where did Larry come from anyway?
It came from about like 6 beers, I think.
Yeah. We were playing like Counter-Strike. You're like, I'm just gonna go by Larry, and like, I don't know what's so funny about it, but everyone loves playing games with Larry. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah, you see Larry in the server, and you just kind of know. You get that feeling, and you're
when
like,
you know.
This
right?
guy is gonna bottom frag.
Yeah, exactly. So we kind of just jumped into it last time because we shoot from the hip. That's kind of our go-to around here. But I don't know, Greg, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, like the games you like, and a few other things, since you may end up hanging around for a few more shows here and there.
Yeah, I used to be a competitive point-and-click adventure game player. I enjoy short walks on the beach and long stays inside.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy a nice piece of air conditioning.
Big fan.
That's air conditioning, really. Anything that keeps a room below 68 degrees, I'm a fan of.
Content
Whether
creator
that be
of the year.
Cold weather.
Air conditioning.
Yes, air conditioning. Big thumbs up for air conditioning. I was thinking about, like, if you could have, like, if like with things that are in mass quantities, right? Like there's a million of something out there in the world. There are things that there should be less than a million of, and things that there should be more than a million of, or whatever quantity you want to put it at. Okay. Air conditioning definitely in the positive column, that we need more millions of.
What about less?
Like, less. I really think that there should be less than a million celeries out there in the world. I hate celery. It's my least favorite food in the world.
Really? Celery?
Just despise celery. If you put celery in something like that, it's just not for me.
Man,
celery salt, I can see.
I was gonna say celery
is
salt is like a base for a ton of different like good food, and without celery, you don't have celery salt, right?
Yeah, I'm willing to make that sacrifice for the world.
Okay, man of the people, Greg Teplitsky. Thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome. But just to get back to the celery topic, I just think that if you're gonna put yourself out there and you're gonna be rooted in the ground as a vegetable, do something for me. Celery, what are you doing for me? You put celery in soup, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like,
fiber.
Man, that was a weird texture.
It's fiber.
Well, we're on Bread Radio. Isn't that where I'm getting my fiber?
That's fair. That's a fair point. All right. Point, Greg.
Poop in a pod. Bread Radio.
Anyway, this week we've got the holidays fast approaching. At least for me, Christmas is coming up, and just like every year, we're a week and counting. And I've bought 0 presents so far, so I've got to do some fun.
You bought
stuff
0 presents?
0 presents so far, dude. I just realized this is my new life now. But Haley's birthday's in the beginning of December, so I like bought all these presents for her and stuff. I'm like, all right, cool, my job is done. And I'm
How long have you guys been dating?
This is 2 years now, basically. So this is the second year we've celebrated Christmas together. But like,
Haley, I've got your back. August, this is very irresponsible.
No. We have an agreement for Christmas that we're just doing like stockings and stuff. I mean, for me, I entered too many Secret Santas. I'm doing the Reddit Secret Santa. I'm doing
Oh, you
two different
purposely?
work
Oh
Secret
boy.
Santas, and then our good buddy Alex was like, "Hey, do you want to do Secret Santa with some of us?" And I was like, "Yeah, sign me up," you know. So, and I can't remember when I'm supposed to have the presents for all four of them, so I have to do like some
Typically
serious
Christmas.
typically. But no, some of them, you know, they wait till like New Year's. Like we used to wait for New Year's when we'd all get together. Um,
Yeah.
so there's some leeway I think with shipping. I'll just blame it on shipping. I'll just be like,
You know,
oh no, like USPS.
for both of our girlfriends, because for some reason our lives tend to follow the same paths in a lot of weird ways.
Yeah, it is weird, isn't it?
W- People have called us brothers, and it's not just that you have a shockingly Jewish fro, and I as well have a
That's why I wear the
non-surprisingly
hat
Jewish
for
fro.
for you two.
But it's interesting because Sarah and Haley are both big into art, right? Sarah,
Right.
my girlfriend, Haley, yours. And so Sarah, like in the past, has done like a homemade Christmas where they would make like each other gifts in like a Secret Santa exchange.
Right.
Which, you know, with what I've seen of a monstrosity from your roommate and one of my good
I was
friends,
gonna
Alex,
segue to that.
I'm glad that you guys are not doing that, but it is a good idea, and I think that maybe, like, you know, in the future, that's something that I'll try to do with Sarah, is like a gift exchange, because it's weird, because, like, you know, when you basically live with your significant other, it's still nice to like do presents and dates and things like that, but at the same
Sure.
time you buy so much stuff for your combined living space just through the progression of life, especially within quarantine, where it's like, we just bought all this random stuff and now we have it. Like, do you really want to, like we got a new TV, I got a surround sound,
Right. It's like
she
amplified
got
by
us a
quarantine, though,
telescope,
right?
you know. So, you know, it's like, all right, like, we just spent, like, you know, thousands of dollars on different stuff for the apartment. Like, do we really want to, like, buy each other expensive gifts now too? Like, where do you put
Yeah.
all this stuff?
Yeah. That's why I think we basically just did stockings last year too. So I think that's probably going to be our trend going forward. Like if it can't fit in the stock, maybe like one gift on the side, but
I think I'm just gonna start
Every ye-
giving people gifts.
Right.
Like, I'll make a gif of myself.
a GIF, like a
Yeah, and I'll just be like,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, forgot Jewish. Oops.
forgot the T. Yeah, my bad. So how was your Hanukkah? How was your holiday?
Hanukkah was good. It was cool. So Sarah's mom like sent us like care packages, like it had
Mhm.
like a menorah in it and other stuff like that, and that was really thoughtful of her and really sweet. But it was also eerily, like, and by no means like a direct comparison, but it was similar to like Get Out in a way, or like,
Oh
you
my
know,
God, Greg.
sort of like a situation like
Uh,
that where, like, you know, she sent us like very generically Hanukkah stuff, like a menorah.
But she's
and,
she's
like,
trying
but
though.
no,
You know,
it
right?
was so thoughtful and so awesome, and I'm so appreciative. But at the same time, it was just kind of funny because, like, you know, I've been Jewish my whole life. I guess that goes without saying, I suppose, in a lot of ways. But, like, you know, like, it's stuff that, like, I already have like multiples of. But,
Right.
like, you know what I mean? It's just like, it was just like a very, like, I don't know. It's just weird because, like, it's just something I've never experienced before. You know, I experienced it a little bit in college.
That was probably a funny
Where
conversation to be a,
there were a lot of people that I was the first Jewish person they met, and they're like,
right.
"Whoa, we're the horns guy," and I'm like, "That's why I got a Jew fro." And so, you know, but, like, you know, it's very rare that I come across those scenarios, and this was by no means not one of them. But it is also interesting, like, for how present we are in controlling the media, how little, you know, people really know of us in a lot of ways, or like did, like, that the cultures, or like just different things, how they align, like, you know, it's just, there's like a weird dynamic within that, I suppose, of being like a very, although present, because you don't just, this sounds weird, but you don't just like, it's not like you wear something that declares you as, like, it's not like other minorities where it's
Right.
it's present, you see it, you know, or things like that. And so when people try to relate culturally to it, it's very weird because it's not really a race or anything. It's just a different cultural upbringing. So it was extremely sweet, and Hanukkah was great. Sarah's awesome with it. She also bought a menorah and had it at her place, which was cool because I basically live there these days.
Right.
So
I was to say that must have been like a funny. It would have been a interesting conversation to be a fly in the wall. Like, oh, what do we get? What should we get Greg? I don't know, like a menorah, I guess. Like, just kind of cracks me up that they had to have that conversation. Like, I guess we'll get him this. Like, he's Jewish. That works, right?
Actually, and I imagine this is our next topic. We talk about like games that we've been playing, but they actually got me a Blizzard gift card because
that's
Sarah
awesome.
told them I played a Hearthstone. So her mom, does her. I think her mom like is like pretty like with it in terms of like internet and different things like that. Like in terms of like my parents, for instance, my mom, she understands like how to do different things within the iPhone part of technology, but very limited there. Even my dad a little bit more so, but still, there's some things that just he doesn't understand how it all works. But like her mom like goes on Reddit and different things like that naturally to her because Sarah doesn't very much use Reddit. So like she's was able to like kind of research more into it and figure out like, okay, he plays Hearthstone, but she had to figure out to get a Blizzard gift card because it doesn't just say Hearthstone on it. You know what I mean?
Right. And like I helped my mom log into Facebook, and she's like, you should work in IT. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about that, Mom. I just helped you log into Facebook. But that's awesome.
Yeah.
To your point, I guess this is a show with video games, so why don't we talk about some games? I'm glad you had a great holiday and looking forward to mine, even though I won't see my family, but that's just the kind of weird year we're living in. But what'd you play this week?
Yeah, so this week I've been pretty busy with different things in life. But I actually, you asked me this beforehand, and I actually had some omissions that I'm now seeing. I've been playing Mario 3D All Stars on my Switch. And I've been playing a lot of Mario Galaxy because I didn't own a Wii. And let me tell you, that is just I don't know how anyone plays that game. At least in handheld mode, it is a nightmare because you get vertigo. Because you're constantly like running upside down and different things like that. Horrible experience. So
Galaxy
I don't know
was
if I'll get through that.
A Wii game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
2007 is the Wii. And so I don't know if I'll be able to finish that one, but I love Sunshine, one of my favorite Mario games of all time. So that I'm excited to play, but I want to play Galaxy because I never had, and I've always heard like different things about it that were cool. I've seen like a speed run of it here and there, but man, playing it, I just was getting like vertigo, like with how because you play the game, you play to win the game. You play the game on a sphere and you hop to different spheres, but the camera doesn't like center behind you, it centers on the sphere, so you're constantly running around this sphere that is has you upside down or like it's just very disorienting. So we'll see.
Have you played it in like the TV mode yet, or has it only been
I haven't had the opportunity to do that yet, so we'll see. Hopefully that makes it a little bit easier, but in handheld it's just a nightmare. And then same things as last week. I played a touch more Valhalla. I played about an hour today. Sometimes when I put down a game like that, though, unless I really am committed to playing it, it's hard for me to sometimes pick it back up and get used to the fighting and combat all over again. So I have to be in the mood.
Right, so we're the same way.
So much recently.
That's kind of why I think when I played Valhalla, I was just like, all right, I'm going to play 70 hours over the next week and a half and just get this done. Because if I put it down, I'm not going to finish it. And that's not necessarily a criticism of the game. That's just me knowing who I am and how I play games.
I think it also has really switched for me because of PC gaming. Because now the majority of games I play with mouse and keyboard. So then switching back to the controller feels like a chore for me a lot of the time. I know you have the PS5 and you play a good amount more console than I do, but with a controller, like I feel like since that's what I play with 2% of the time, it takes me a lot longer to get more comfortable with switching back to that type of game.
No, I get that. The input method, like, yeah. I definitely went through streaks where all I did was play PC games, and like going back to my PS4, it was much harder because not only the like input method, but the FPS was way off. So it's like getting used to that, like visually was weird. I'm having a like less of a difficult time now because like the new consoles, since they can push out 60 FPS, like I'm only like fighting upstream kind of with one input method. I'm not also like in my brain trying to get used to 30 frames per second again. So That's kind of like a tacit benefit of the next gen, which has kind of been nice for me.
Yeah, I'm curious to see with this is a side topic, but or kind of
That's
just
it's
off
a
topic.
podcast. This is what we do, man. Go for it.
But the interesting thing to me is that PlayStation advertised 40K 120 frames
Mm-hmm. Or 4K,
with 120 FPS.
right?
I'm very curious to see if they ever hit that.
Did they
of a
advertise?
benchmark game?
I know they.
Yes.
Okay, because I know that they said
I think it's
recently
on the box.
their targets are. I know Xbox can hit like targets 120 hertz. I don't know if Sony's going higher than 60. I don't think. I think I could be wrong though, so don't quote me on that yet. But I would love to see like.
Yeah.
Right now,
it says 4K. The PS5 will be able to run 4K 120 FPS.
Huh.
It says that there, will be compromises made, but it's supposed to, might be like upscaling or something. But I just,
Right.
I don't know if it'll ever hit that. But I don't even know if my computer could really hit that, to be honest, in like a really graphical game. But that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I've definitely gotten 4K 60 and been fine. So I don't know. Like there aren't that many 120 hertz TVs out there, at least cheap ones. So
yeah,
I think
I actually got
as long
one
as
on Black Friday.
Did you
I
really?
got the Sony 900H.
How is that?
It's super cool. I mean, I haven't really taken advantage of the 120 FPS on it because they're supposed to release an update to the firmware that does it. So fingers crossed they actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the TV itself is just beautiful.
So like the hardware is capable, but like it's just not in there yet.
Yeah, it needs a firmware update.
They're probably just like, we don't really need, like, you're future proofed, but you don't really need this yet, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, the fun thing about that TV is it's actually my third one. When we bought it from Amazon, UPS shipped it, and the screen was completely shattered. Sent it back. They sent us a replacement, and I told them, I called the Amazon customer service, and I was like, hey, bought this TV from you guys because I've got your Prime card, so I got an extra discount on it, and I've never had a problem with you guys. You've delivered monitors before, and the TV was completely shattered. If you guys are willing to pay the slight difference, I will just go to Best Buy right now and I will buy a TV from there, so that way it doesn't get shattered again, because you guys just lost $1,000 and here I am without the TV that was already late. And they said, no,
so
we can't do anything like that.
It was two TVs that broke or just the one?
Oh, the next one came and was broken as well. Yeah, shattered again. Okay. And when I called customer service, the representative, I don't blame them, but they said to me, I'll put a note in the system so that UPS knows it's fragile. What? It comes in a box that says Sony 65-inch TV. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this was like the LG C9X or whatever, the OLED, $30,000 TV. It wasn't, but it's a nice enough TV where, it's just a TV. You should know it's inherently fragile. Whatever. Third one came. It was fine.
Are you sure it didn't say fragile?
It might have. Yeah. I think it said kick this box. I don't know. We'll see. I'd have to look at the photos.
Long story short, though, you have a TV that's working.
I have
right
a TV
now.
that works, and it's really cool. That, and I did surround sound, which I've wanted since ever, and I finally did it, installed it, pulled the trigger on it, and it's been cool. Like just watching movies and getting that kind of movie theater vibe of like I watched a bit of Star Wars when Sarah wasn't in the apartment because she hasn't seen them all yet, so I didn't want to like ruin it for her, but I wanted to listen to like one of the new ones that's like optimized for like Dolby Atmos surround sound.
Mm-hmm.
And just hearing like the spacecraft go like around you and like over your head. The eerie thing is watching football because the back surround speakers, that's where a lot of the crowd noise comes from. The announcers are only in the center channel. So you get a ton of crowd noise, but it's all fake crowd noise this year, which is super eerie.
Yeah,
and almost makes
weird.
it like awkward to watch, but it's still cool, obviously. But it's
is it kind of dystopian in a way?
A little bit, yeah, because like it's just pumped, like it's just weird, but because you're watching the game and you hear all these fans and you're like, oh, what a player, just like the roar of the crowd, and you're just like, that's like audio engineered crowd noise, and it's just weird because there's no one there, but the crowd noise sounds so loud because you sit closer to the surrounds than you do the center channel,
right.
And the front speakers, which have like some of the field noise, and just creates a weird atmosphere to watch it.
Some of it is real crowd noise now. Like They just have like the small pockets of people mic'd up really well, and that's been pretty weird too, because you can literally just like hear people having a conversation, which is kind of funny.
Maybe we should just risk it, and that's where we advertise the podcast.
Yeah, just start let's go
and
to
it's
an
3rd and
NFL
9
game
for the Broncos. Bread Radio.
Listen to Bread Radio on your favorite podcast.
How much do you think that's the future? Like, so there's a company, Omaha Steaks. How much do you think it would have cost them for them to change Peyton Manning's audible call from Omaha to Omaha Steaks? How much is that worth?
Oh my God, they'd probably get
Walmart.
Do you think they get in trouble for that? Because like the NFL like controls like the shoes that they can wear. You know, like
that's just good advertising rights. I wonder what that would cost. Like if we were to get like Ben Roethlisberger at Snap to say Bread Radio. How much?
That's a good question. Maybe
I've always wondered that about like
athlete
tattoos,
team.
right? Like if you're an NBA player, you've got plenty of real estate on your arms.
Right.
How much would that cost?
Probably a ton of money, because they're not really hurting for sponsors, and that's like a permanent sponsor.
Yeah, but maybe you're like 8th guy off the bench. You only got a 5-year sort of lifespan on your career. Would you sell Walmart your left bicep for like $5 million?
Ooh, probably more than $5 million. Again, it's permanent. Like you think about like in soccer deals, they make sleeve sponsors.
Would you do that personally right now though?
For
your
$5
whole left
million?
bicep is gonna, yeah. You have to have a permanent tattoo of Walmart on your left bicep, but you get $5 million to be a billboard for Walmart.
That's a great question. What's their slogan? Is it
Eat fresh?
Walmart, eat fresh.
Toasty.
You know, $5 million Walmart, toasty. You know, $5 million. I might do that. That might be a shrewd business decision. Like, do I have to keep that on my arm forever?
I was about to say buy more, save less, but that's definitely not their slogan. That the buy more maybe, but like the save less, that just doesn't sound right.
Yeah. Do you have to keep it on your arm forever, or can you like laser it off at some point? Because at that point,
I mean, you'd have to negotiate that in the contract.
If I could negotiate in the contract, maybe like $5 million, man.
20-year deal.
Ain't no one's looking at my
20-year deal.
They'd be like, Dad, why do you have that Walmart tattoo on your?
Do you want to go to college?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, maybe. Would you?
No.
I
mean,
you have so much integrity that $5 million wouldn't.
We told our stories and everything. In terms of like Hanukkah and religion, and it's like very ingrained in me that I cannot have tattoos, and it's just something I don't care what anyone else does, but I just would never get a tattoo because of that upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't, but at the same time, $5 million is $5 million. So, it would look, if Walmart wants to contact me, or, like Prego sauce or whatever. Oh my God, how much I prefer a Prego tattoo on your belly. Anyways, but
this podcast has very quickly gone off the rails.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
I don't know if I can.
Yeah. All right. What else have you? Let's just power through Prego. Like, okay, I think Prego on the belly is like a good place to stop. All right. What else have you been playing this week?
I played I played Call of Duty Zombies.
Yeah.
Which was a lot of fun. I like the zombies game modes, but I really didn't play a ton of games.
To be clear, it's Call of Duty, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War Zombies, right? Is what you were playing.
Brought to you by Prego, yeah.
Brought to you by Prego. So.
Oh my God, dude! You blow up their head in like
tomato sauce.
SpaghettiOs just pop out of their head.
Oh no.
That would actually be hilarious, like the most commercialized game ever.
Oh, just
just with like every
shameless,
weird advertisement.
every single power
just
up
the most shameless plugs. Like you're in a Walmart, you're using
like
Nerf guns,
right.
You're wearing Under Armour gear, that would actually be hilarious.
You power up with like Go-Gurt.
Yeah.
Yo, slide me a Go-Gurt. Yeah, that'd
And
be
like
funny.
like if instead of getting revived, like independent health just comes in, like your insurance company like picks you back up.
Now that's dude. Now that's cyberpunk, man. That's some corporate bullshit right there.
Yeah, let's talk about, and that's a notable omission. I have personally decided, and we're going to talk about this in two different places later on, but I personally decided not to play Cyberpunk until they fix the game. I don't want to start the game until it's the game that I want to finish. Because
Yeah,
if I play it now and I beat it, I will never go back and play it, even if it's fixed, because I just don't have the time commitment to replay a game that should have been the game I bought. So
right.
I'm just not going to play it for a while.
Well, we'll get to cyberpunk first. Tell me, like, can you tell me more about zombies? Because I haven't touched like the new Call of Duty
I
at
mean,
all.
there's not really much to say other than everything that made Call of Duty Zombies fun in the past is back, and it's just as good as ever. It's cool because if you play Warzone like I do, you get to level up your guns for Warzone within Zombies, so there's still a feeling of progression.
Is that like a pretty efficient way to level up your guns?
Very, very much so.
Because
yeah.
I imagine you're just shooting constantly, right? So
yeah, but you get like less XP than you would if you were like shooting another player in multiplayer or in Warzone. But it's a fun way to test them out, and it just has like a lot of like good Easter eggs in it and different locations and different missions to do. Like you can do like an exfil mission, it's called, where you get like a helicopter to come pick you up out of the zombie minefield, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
And you have like this crazy swarm of zombies come after you as soon as you trigger that event, and it's just the mindless like horde gameplay that I've kind of missed, because
I love horde gameplay.
When we play Warzone as a friend group, that game is inherently competitive from the jump. So one of our friends, Ben, and I, because it's the free multiplayer weekend for Cold War and like double gun XP and everything, and we wanted to unlock all the fun attachments for the new guns so we could play with them in Warzone. And it was just so mindless, like we got to chill, just talk, and just not have to like be like, oh, let's get our loadout, and then you get killed by a team that's camping, and it just inherently brings some anxiety levels, and it has those frustrating moments that you just wish didn't exist. Right. So with zombies, it's just good old fashioned fun. It's a great way to just kick back and relax while gaming. Whereas Warzone, I'm hunched over. Zombies, I'm leaning back. Yep. And I like playing games where I have to lean forward, but that comes at a price. And it's not fun when you're getting tilted and your friends are getting tilted, because they use skill-based matchmaking. And I have a high KD and my friends don't. And so when we play together, I will get like 10 kills and they'll get like 2 kills and 1 kill. And that's nothing against them. I've just played the game a lot more, and I played a lot more FPSs. And I'm also on mouse and keyboard, which I think is a benefit to my own level of play. And I played way more shooters than they have. And I'm on I'm on a 144 hertz 2K monitor. Like I'm just going to be, and I'm playing on a PC, not a locked 30 to 60 FPS console. And, it just doesn't always create the most fun gameplay that's inclusive to everybody. You and I played, and we won a game where our team had like 9 kills, and all we did was sit in a house, and it was fine, but it was boring. Whereas zombies, we could have been goofing around, shooting zombies, and having like, some competitive thing of like, oh, they're all over me, like help me out or whatever. But we would have just gotten to chill, kick back, and just laugh at the game. Whereas in Warzone, I feel like there's a lot less laughter than I would like out of a video game with friends. I like that to be a goofy, fun experience. I want the competitive at times, but I'll seek that out. I don't always want it to be competitive, but I think Warzone, the way that battle royales tend to be, is that they're inherently competitive, because if you don't take it somewhat seriously, it's impossible to have the fun moments occur.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. Like I honestly wish they would, like, I wish Zombies was almost separate from Call of Duty, right? Like I don't care about the campaign. I really don't care about the multiplayer, but I'm always looking for something to do with my pals. Like, especially something that we can do that's like not super competitive, because I play like Valorant with our friends, and that's like ultra sweaty.
Way too sweaty, right?
And then we play like Halo, but we play against each other, and I'm too competitive for my own damn good. So of course I get sweaty playing that too. So like having something multiplayer that we could all play together and kind of like, actually have teamwork. I look for those experiences, but I don't think
it's just a good game to like geek out at and just like, just goof around, no matter if it's,
It's like killing floor
a
and
day
all
after
the-
work, or but it also, unlike some other zombie games, it also has enough different like gun upgrades, and it like one of my least favorite things about a ton of zombie games, like I love Left 4 Dead 2, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
you use that same AK and it's always that same AK. Whereas in this game, you've got like 30 different guns. You can pack a punch them. You can modify their ammo to have different power ups and things like that. So it has so much more depth to it. And there's, the maps are just, although they're limited in the amount, they just have more depth to them in terms of like the Easter eggs and different missions within the map. There's different missions that you can do within them, similar to like contracts in Warzone.
Mhm.
There's these like intel things, or I forget what they're called, but like different missions that you have to do, like go to this location and don't take damage for a minute. And it's stupid and it's little, but it adds just a little touch
It's just
more.
it's like a modifier for you.
Yeah,
Like, yeah.
exactly. And so it's just, it's just a great way to like chill and just play a shooter game without having to like overthink it. But still, if you want to like, if you want to get sweaty playing it and try to get, to a really high round level, great. That's available to you. But if you just want to goof around and you guys die early, who cares? You queue it again. And it's not because some team was camping, this building that you just happen to run into, or in Warzone when you're parachuting in and somebody just, has the same thing that, I've done to other people, but, has that feeling of, oh, this guy's, a turkey flying down. Let me just go and beam him out of the sky.
Right.
And you get killed off the drop like that. And you're just like, all right,
that's a
I don't wanna
frustrating
play this anymore.
experience. Yeah.
That doesn't happen in zombies, but you still get that like kind of fun, competitive shooting atmosphere. And, that has been extremely refreshing for me.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, honestly, hearing you talk about that, like, there's no split screen or anything, is there?
There is.
I wonder. There is? Oh, shit.
I believe so, yes.
Oh, shit. Because if I can play that with Alex and Travis here, like...
Yeah, you might have to get it on PS5 to do split screen.
That's us.
I don't think you can split screen on PC, but like, yeah, I think... So the interesting thing about it is, and this is new for Call of Duty in general, I can play so to play a solo match in zombies, you have to play a private lobby, which is just for you.
Mhm.
But you can still rank up your gear and everything in that private lobby. So today, when I was booting up my computer at like 9 a.m., no one else was on. I played zombies by myself, was able to rank up my guns with the double XP, and just chill and like watch. I was actually watching the Game Awards, which we're talking about today. Well, I was just doing that as like a passive sort of thing because here we are in 2020. I have two monitors. They both better be doing something for me.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh man, I wish I didn't know that it was split screen, because now
Yeah.
I think it just came out with the
Alex
season. I
would
just
love
looked
it
it
too,
up.
dude. Alex and I used to play Infinite Warfare, the Call of Duty game. We used to pass the controller, and it was just goofy fun. I actually watched the other day on my lunch break some old CDL Call of Duty League matches of different games, just to see like, just to remember like different games, because it is a pretty historic moment in COD where the two competing studios are now combining in this middle ground game and of Warzone, which will be like an advertising platform
For
probably
both. Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
until it breaks, right? Until something else changes, Warzone will be evergreen as the middle ground advertising platform for Call of Duty. That's what it is now. And so with that, it just kind of like sparked my interest into like, I thought about actually Alex and I playing Infinite Warfare, and I went back and watched some of those, and like, dude, Call of Duty did Halo better than Halo in that game. I was looking back at it and I was like, man, like this game was so cool, like all the different power-ups and things like that. And then I was thinking like, yeah, like looking back at it, like Alex and I played that for a while and it was fun. We sucked, but it was fun. And I'm interested for when the rubber band snaps the opposite direction, and instead of having Modern Warfare 1, 2, 3, eventually it got to Advanced Warfare and Infinite. And I bet you it will again. And I'm interested to see, with the way that they are able to engineer gunplay, which is usually at a pretty high level compared to most gun-based games. Call of Duty, for all of its problems,
the standard.
is the standard.
Yeah.
For a good reason. Mainly Infinity War
like
in terms of that.
And like Counter-Strike, I guess, but like
yeah.
But there are like three types of gunplay.
Mechanically
Halo.
Counter-Strike, but in terms of like aesthetics and just like the feeling of shooting. And so this is something that's cool if you do get it on the PS5, is the adaptive triggers on the PS5 controller make every gun feel different to shoot.
Right. Yeah,
So
I'm
you can
already
tell what gun
experiencing
you're
that in
shooting.
Borderlands. It's pretty cool.
How is that? Let's switch to your games and let's talk about. Let's let you talk about that. I've talked enough about Call of Duty. Nobody cares about it except for me for the most part.
No,
Not
I
that
could
nobody
like I
cares
was
about
actually
it, but,
really curious about zombies. Like
but
like so with PlayStation Plus, you get like the on PS5 you get like this catalog of games, and Black Ops 3 like Ultimate Zombie Edition or something's on there. So I'm actually thinking about downloading that to play some with Alex and decide if I want to get Cold War just to play zombies. We'll see.
the cool thing if you got Cold War, and I don't know how this all would work, but there might be a world with the way that PS5 has like the headphone plugin. I wonder if I could call in to you guys and play cross-platform with all of us.
Yeah, that would be cool. We'll have to do some research. If I could do cross-platform zombies, like I'd be down.
I think you can.
I'd definitely be down.
I think you can, and I don't know. That would be a cool way for all of us to get to hang out. Because, anyways,
yeah, we'll talk about it after the show.
But if anyone has any interest in hearing me rant about Call of Duty or Hearthstone, which I didn't mention, but still play Hearthstone all the time.
I want to hear about Hearthstone soon. Well, maybe next show.
Yeah, let's do that another time. They had a new content release. I think you'd really like the Battlegrounds mode that they have. It would take a long poop, but
long bathroom break.
It's a really, I think actually, maybe one time we were talking about this before we got on the pod, and I guess maybe I'm just releasing things before they happen, but we're going to get back into doing some YouTube content together and potentially some streams alongside of that. And I think maybe we do, so I had two ideas.
Okay.
So one is an hour for you, an hour for me. Essentially, we play an hour game that I'm interested in, then we play an hour game that you're interested in together.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one I had was for the listeners out there. We pay, or something about I wanted it to be like you pay, we play, but you don't have to pay, we just pay, and then we play the game. So if we would just put it as an open straw pool essentially of any game.
Yeah.
And whatever game we get the most requests for, we have to play it for 2 hours.
Oh man, that's how we end up.
No matter how good
or
how bad it is,
getting over it.
We will, as long as it's under $10, we will both download it. As long as it can be played by both of us simultaneously, and we will play it for 2 hours.
All right. Well, let's talk about that more because I do want to do some YouTube stuff.
It's kind of like Now That's a Racket. Again, it's not necessarily what we'll be doing, but Now That's a Racket, the podcast idea from the last one, if you recall. But
oh yeah.
But yeah. So I don't know. I'd like to do some fun stuff like that, and maybe that's like the right medium to check out Hearthstone or maybe like zombies or something.
Sure. Yeah, I definitely have been looking for a reason to play some more Hearthstone again. Like that is kind of like my go-to, sit on the couch, have a show on, and just play single player. Because that's a similar game, not similar to zombies, but similar in the feeling where I can just chill and play rather than compete against someone.
The nice thing about it too. The nice thing about Hearthstone, I've come to realize, is, and this is what made it a big streaming game, is that there's a lot of downtime. So you have a minute and 30 seconds to do your turn. So you play your turn, and if you're not that invested in being a top tier competitor, you don't really care what your opponent does. So then you just look back when it's your turn, you play your turn, and then you move on. And maybe you have some cards and you figure out what your cool combo could be or what you want your deck to do. But there's a lot of good deck building that you could. Oh, sorry. One last thing. Sarah and I have gone into board games a lot.
Yeah.
And we started playing the Harry Potter deck building game, and it's our first time playing a deck building game, and it's super cool.
She likes deck building.
I do.
I love deck building. I think it's great.
So I bought the game, and she really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. It was a ton of fun.
So it's a deck building board game, or is it a card game, or?
Yeah, it's a card game. Basically, there's 7 games within the game, and each of them are the Harry Potter movies. Mm-hmm. So you have a starter deck of spells, and those spells give you different resources, and then you buy cards from the shop, and you have to defeat. In the first game, you have to defeat Draco Malfoy, Crabbe and Goyle, and Professor Quirrell.
Is this a Harry Potter branded game of like a different one, or is this
Yes.
an original Harry Potter game?
It's an original Harry Potter deck building game.
Okay, because like I want to try it, but Haley doesn't care for. Well, she's never watched or read Harry Potter before, so it feels like a different. You know how they have like, oh, it's
there's a ton of great
it's
board
My
games
Little
out there.
Pony
Have you ever played
Uno.
Pandemic?
Yeah, I've played Pandemic before. She
Okay.
doesn't like board games, but if I could get her into something, I would try like some sort of card game.
Does she like mysteries or anything like that?
You know, like one of these days I'll get her on the show, but the way she says it, as soon as someone starts like explaining rules to her, she just starts hearing sirens in her head, like and like zones out and doesn't hear anything. So like that's.
Well, I was gonna say because Sarah and
we're
I
probably not gonna find a board game.
Yeah, Sarah and I will probably finish this game at some point, and we're looking to like give it to somebody because you can only play it once essentially. But it's like a Sherlock Holmes board-ish game.
That sounds
it's
cool.
more like a choose your own adventure book in a lot of ways. You're given like a map of England and like these different locations you can go to, and this book of like different people that you can like choose to interrogate and things like that or investigate, and you have to try to figure out who done it with the resources that you have. And the way that the game's kind of kept in check is like you get a score based on how few leads it took you to find the right answers to who done it and some other questions like that. And actually in some of the cases there's like side investigations that you can do as well. But it's a lot like a merge between a point and click adventure and a choose your own adventure sort of thing because it's not digital.
Mhm.
And so that's been really cool. That maybe that I thought
Yeah,
like maybe
send me-
for
send
her
me
maybe
the-
that
Send me the description, or like if you have a title of it or something, I'd love to look it
Yeah.
up. Like,
because once
that
we
sounds
beat it, we have
interesting.
no use for it. So if that's
Right.
something that you guys would get enjoyment out of, be happy to mail it to you.
and then just like pass it on.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Cool. So yeah, I guess I'll talk about some of the games I played this week.
Yeah, sorry, that was a little bit more extended than I thought.
No, totally okay. Honestly, we'll probably just go right to Cyberpunk today. I don't know if any of you guys really want to hear our opinions on some of the Game Awards stuff. Like maybe we'll come out with some of it, but it's already been out for like 8 days, so I imagine a ton of you out there have already like consumed all that content, especially if you're here. So, anyway, this week I spent a pretty decent amount of time playing Fall Guys again with Alex because we've just been like quarantining pretty hardcore, and I've got a PS5 downstairs and a PS4 too. And that's a game we can kind of play together, and it's another one of those where it's like we're competitive with other people, but we don't really care, and like we gave our characters both the same color scheme and like pattern, like this little sprinkle pattern. And oh God, I can't even believe I'm gonna say this, but we just go like we just call ourselves the Sprinkle Boys and say that we don't cross the finish line in Fall Guys unless we're both there together. So like I don't know, it's been pretty fun, and Alex is actually
the finales must be difficult.
Well, if we make it there. Honestly, Alex is like better at it than I am now.
Alex is really good at video games. He just doesn't play them very often.
Yeah, like
He's
if he
really gifted at video games.
if he wants to get good at one, he just will, which is kind of like which is fun. So I try and like goad him on, which is why
he played a $0 Hearthstone deck with just Murlocs in it, and somehow made, and he didn't even
made
play
a higher
that much,
rank
but
than I ever did.
Yeah, he somehow made it to like rank like 4 or 3, and like he was just like Burleys, dude.
Yeah.
Made some weird sound effect that like the Murlocs do, and he just liked their sound effects, and he just was destroying people because he's just like, I mean, the deck itself like wasn't bad, but like he's just good at like solving the puzzle of games.
Yeah, no, he really is, and like he'll get competitive about the weirdest stuff, and it's fun. I love playing games with him. He's my boy. So I honestly like after this podcast, I'm going down there and we're gonna play some Fall Guys or something. Maybe zombies if I can get it to download fast. But other than that, I tried to play a little more Cyberpunk. We'll get into it in a second, but I've actually already uninstalled it on my PlayStation. Maybe I'll try it again someday on my PC, but we'll talk about like I don't want to turn this into like a completely pessimistic let's shit on Cyberpunk thing, but there's some things that we have to talk through, I think is responsible to talk through. I've also been playing I decided to pick up Bug Snacks and excuse me. Pardon me. That game is I don't know. I kind of like where it's going. Like it shows you pretty early on. Like it's goofy, right? Um, it shows you its gameplay loop pretty early on. It's a puzzle game, so you've got a limited set of tools, and you use those tools to capture bug snacks. Repeat ad nauseum, and like the story is kind of like goofy enough to string you along in the gameplay. And actually, there's like a weird like dark mystery element to it. It's almost like it's like colorful and fun as a facade. And I don't know. I've heard the story goes to a weird place. I haven't beat it yet, so I can't say. I think I've maybe played 3 or 4 hours at this point, and from what I can gather, that's like maybe halfway through so far. And honestly, it's one of those I think I'm gonna pick up and play for 2 hours at a time here and there, and try and just beat it, because it's fun. It's worth playing. I think if you recently purchased a PS5 too, I think it's free through January. Don't quote me on that, but that sounds right in my head. Otherwise, it's like a $20 game. And I just like those devs too. Like they made Octodad, and Octodad's one of my favorite
it's those guys. Cool.
Yeah, Young Horses, I think it is. And have you seen anything about Bugsnax, Greg? Maybe
I've
I
seen a
should
little
start
bit
there.
of gameplay, and I actually pulled it up again, and just looking at it, it just gives me the feel goods of like N64 in the future. In a similar way that Gears for Breakfast did with A Hat in Time. And
Yeah, I
so
loved A Hat in
if-
Time. Yeah, it's just like
so
one of those that's like it's not.
I will definitely be checking this game out in the future because it looks like
It's
something
probably
that
a
I wish
fun
was on the
one to play
Nintendo
with
Switch.
Sarah, honestly.
But yeah, 100%. So I don't know. This game looks really fun. I can see myself getting lost
It's just
in
one of those games. It's not this intense strategy. It's like not super deep by any mean, but
Stay
like
with me now. No loot management.
yeah, like there's hard.
Sometimes
Like,
I just want to play a game and I don't want to have to search every corpse for a drachma.
yeah. It's too much sometimes, right? And this is just like cool. This is the game. This is the gameplay loop. It's $20. I don't need to play this for 80 hours. I'm fine with that. Like, we're good. So,
not that this is in our notes at all, but when does Ratchet and Clank the new one come out?
I don't think it has a release date yet. I want to say next year, but it could be a little further out. But I actually am replaying through the one that came out in PS4, like the remake or whatever.
That was one of my favorite games, Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal. I didn't play the PS4 one. I have to because I have a PS4 and I just forgot about that series until I just thought about it now.
Mhm.
But that type of game, like, when I was
it's like
talking about Valhalla and putting down the controller.
It's like an action platformer, I would almost call it, right?
And that's one of those ones where you pick it back up and you don't feel like you forgot everything that you were doing, the story, everything. It just is instantly immersive in that world. And so what can you talk a little bit more about the gameplay loop for it?
For Bugsnax or Ratchet?
Yeah. Like what is it? What's its like a level purpose feel like, or level design?
So
feel
like it's kind of like, well, it's broken. So the world's kind of broken up into like 9 or 10 different zones that all have like a different theme to them. Like, there's a beach or a forest, or like you're kind of in the mountains, right? And each section has like different sort of bug snacks that are kind of like native to that area. Some might be a twist. Like, for example, there's Strabby, which is like a little strawberry like insect thing, but there's also like a white strawberry that only comes out at night, and there's some bug snacks that only come out during rain, and there are some that like you can only capture them once they're unfrozen. It's like a popsicle. So you like the puzzle and the gameplay loop is figuring out how to use the tools that you have on hand to capture these bug snacks and feed them to the people that want them, or not feed them. There are a couple people that are like, there's like one character who's like kind of like an activist almost and looks at them like pets, right? So you take those tools, you like run these little quests for the people, you bring them back, you feed them bug snacks, sort of repeat ad nauseum to like drive the story forward. And the story is like you're showing up to this island where the bug snacks live at the request of this explorer Lisbert, and Lisbert's like missing. So, and at the town of Snacksburg, like there's only the one person she left like in charge as like interim mayor, and no one respects him, so they all went their separate ways. So you're doing these quests for these folks to get them to come back to town, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And like I've gotten a decent amount of folks back into town, and like weird things are starting to happen around the little around Snacksburg, and we still haven't found Lisbert. And you're like interviewing people to I buried the lead here, but you're like a journalist for a newspaper, so you're like interviewing people once they come back to town to get more information about the island and where Lisbert might be, and they like give you a clue. So that's kind of what's driving the story forward. And I'm totally in for those kind of like goofy little mysteries. So
yeah, the game, looking at some of the footage of it and listening to what you're saying, and I mean, granted, this is their tagline, but whimsical, I guess.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's on the Epic Game Store, so I don't have PS Online anymore because I just don't use it. So I'm
Right.
probably gonna get this for computer. Is it couch co-op, or I know you're saying you played
No,
it.
I think it's only single player. I was just saying,
Do
like
you guys just
it's
pass the controller?
Haley will just watch, or whoever's in the
Okay.
room will just watch. Like it's just one of those that's like kind of just a fun game. Like, and you know, it's like puzzly. Like, so you're trying to figure out how to catch the bug snacks, so you can kind of talk through stuff together. Like, what if you tried this? You know,
Yeah, this
That
this,
kind of
this
gameplay.
game looks great. I'm all right. You've sold me on this.
Yeah. I mean, it's neat. Like I said, I don't think it's gonna take home any Game of the Year awards this year potentially, but I think it's a
Well,
solid.
I mean, it didn't, right? Isn't that what we're here for?
I don't think it did, at least. It won't take home my Game of the Year award, but it's definitely a consideration. So, and to answer your question, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is scheduled for Q1, Q2 2021. So we'll see if that gets pushed
Okay.
at all. But it seems like from the demos they've showed, that's pretty far along already.
Yeah,
so-
I trust them. Every game that they've
Like
ever released,
Insomniac.
I've liked, except for Ratchet Deadlocked. That was the only one I didn't like.
Mhm.
I haven't played the PS4 one. I don't know why I haven't. But I just
It's
haven't.
good, man. If you have your PS4 like in a box somewhere, you should break it out. It's
Yeah, I
totally
think
worth playing.
I think the issue with some PS4 titles for me was always that was like probably a year after I got my PS4, I really got deep into like maybe 6 months after I got the PS4, PUBG came out, and I was playing that and CS, and like I got into CS:GO with you,
Yeah.
and then
Sorry
I
about that.
and then I started getting really deep into like those FPSs, and then I built a newer computer and I just play stuff on my PC. So there were a lot of PS4 games that I had a very short window of wanting to play. So like I played like Horizon Zero Dawn and the Uncharted games that I never had played, and a lot of different games like that. And I still played some of the bigger releases like this year Ghost of Tsushima,
Mhm.
which we'll probably touch on slightly, I would imagine, later on. And also, Last of Us, both parts. And because I only got to watch someone play Last of Us, and I borrowed someone's PS3, but I didn't have enough time to like borrow their PS3 to beat it.
Mhm.
So I played that through, and yeah, so I didn't really ever. So like there were some titles that I missed, and Ratchet and Clank definitely was one, and Bugsnax kind of just like gave me that vibe in a way, with just like having depth, but also just being like a fun, whimsical 3D platformer adventure sort of game. And I'm
It's
all
not
in
really a
for those.
platformer. It's more like a puzzle adventure game.
More
if I had
puzzly?
to-
Okay.
Yeah, I would say there's like almost no platforming, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I couldn't tell by
So,
like the gameplay videos that I saw if there was any platforming. I just kind of assumed it had some because that usually goes hand in hand with these types of games. But that actually
Yeah.
makes it more
I
interesting.
mean, there's
because
some jumping
platforming's-
around, but no skill based like platforming.
Okay, so it's not Odyssey, but that's probably a good thing because I was pretty bad at Odyssey compared to what I've seen people do in that game in terms of like movement.
Odyssey. Which-
Super Mario Odyssey. Sorry.
Oh yeah, dude, I'm terrible at that game. I wish I was better. I just don't like the way Mario moves in pretty much any game he's in. Like at all.
You know what's interesting
It's
about
crazy.
that though is I can't remember. I think it was another podcast I was listening to. They spent like the first 6 or something months of development for Mario 64 just on how Mario jumped, because it was the first like real 3D Mario game.
Right.
And it's something that you kind of take for granted in a way, of how much the character's actual movement profile matters before you even build a map, because you have to like get every jump
It
combination.
informs everything, right?
Right. Yeah. So I thought that was like kind of an interesting thing to like. I never really thought about like, you jump in a video game and you jumped like that was it. And that's I think part of my frustration when we spoke last week about like the new Assassin's Creed games is because everything's scalable. The world doesn't matter, right? Like you can just conquer the world,
Right.
and I think it takes away some of that like movement mechanic that some of like Odyssey, as although I suck at it and it can be frustrating at times because I suck at it, but it's pretty crazy how much depth there is just to learning how to jump properly with your character, and how much of that kind of determines um like what you're able to achieve in collecting moons or whatever the game may be that has that platforming.
Right. No, I would agree with that. Yeah. I think
Anyways, oh sorry.
Valhalla, like I said, like Assassin's Creed is like it's it's not Applebee's like a restaurant. You like, but it's definitely it's catering to the like it's catering to the masses. So it wants something that's like hyper approachable. So like the old platforming
Yeah.
style wasn't like always that approachable. So they're just like, yeah, we're gonna make a really good looking game. You can climb anything you want and take it all in. And there's space for that, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
With Borderlands 3, does that we talked about zombies, and I feel like Borderlands 3 is kind of where you get your fill of a similar type uh of game, right?
yeah, totally. Like it's that run and gun shooter sort of like just like the definitely has loot management. It's pretty much all loot management when you're talking about weapons and stuff, but like you find a couple good guns and like yeah, I just plowed through and beat the store like the main story myself. And I don't know, I guess here's my 2 sentence review of Borderlands 3. If you like the other Borderlands, you'll probably like this one. It's like it's more of the same, but I'm playing on PS5 using
Okay.
and it's the upgraded version, so it runs 60 FPS. Like I don't think Borderlands 3 came out in the healthiest place on the previous generation's consoles. I think if you're gonna play it on PC or the next gen with the upgrade.
Fair.
It looks really nice. I mean, as nice as that cartoony style can, but it runs pretty smooth, and like you can pile a lot of mayhem on that screen without the console chugging, which is pretty nice. And
Is that crossplay, do you know?
I don't know if it is, but I do own it on PC also. I'll have to check if it is. I wish it like
I'd be down to play that game. I have Borderlands 2, and I got 3 hours into the game, and I loved every moment of it. I was playing solo,
mm-hmm.
and I got stuck. And every time I reload my save, I'm still in the stuck spot, and I don't have another save. So I just stopped playing it completely because I was so upset and just didn't have. It's not like I was playing with you or someone else where like I had a reason to keep moving through it, but like I was just like, man, like I'm. And then I just
Yeah,
never
I'm done
revisited
with
it.
this.
But
Yeah,
I've always wanted to play a Borderlands game, and I'd be down to check that out with you.
yeah. Let me
In
figure
lieu
out
of
if it
zombies,
is.
if that's not something that we, couch co-op type of thing together. Borderlands 3 would definitely pique my interest.
Yeah, there's some games I would play a ton more of if it was crossplay. Honestly, like you look at GTA 5. Like I'd love to download that again on my PS5 and just play with all the stuff that I earned on PC, but they don't let you do that because people like hack money and stuff. Whatever. But like Borderlands is one of
Yeah.
them. Like COD. Like the only reason I really play Warzone, like I said last week, is to play like crossplay with my pals. So like
Yeah, let me know what you
we'll look
think
into
of
that.
playing Borderlands 3 on PC because it's on sale for $20 on PC
Yeah,
until
I have
December
it. So
22nd.
yeah,
So,
let's talk about it soon.
okay.
But anyway, I beat the main story in Borderlands 3, and they have this thing at the end called like there are a ton of DLCs in like they have 2 season passes, I think. But the thing is, like I don't feel like they didn't include stuff in the main story. Like I definitely still got a ton of gameplay out of it, of just the main story, and I liked it enough that honestly I may pick up the DLC at some point just to like run through it because I had a good time playing through the main story. And typically they somehow even get like they get weirder with some of their DLC. Like I played a bunch of the Borderlands 2 DLCs back in the day, and they all have like their own theme, and some
I like the art
they're a
style of the games.
they're a varying quality, but for the most part, I still enjoyed like the themes that they went through. Like Tiny Tina's Adventure in Borderlands 2 is the one that most people
Yeah,
talk about because it goes through like kind of like themes of loss, which was kind of interesting, like loss of
yeah,
innocence.
and it looks like all of their DLCs are also on sale on PC too. So,
Are they? I
um,
wonder if they're on sale on PS5 then.
yeah, it looks
Have
like
to look at that.
well, maybe not all of them are on. Let's see. Yeah, they're all $10 on PC right now.
Yeah, I think you're better off probably getting a season pass if you like it. I'm not sure
Yeah,
what the
the
price
this it
difference
looks like
is.
so it looks like the first season pass on Steam is mostly positive. Season pass 2 is mostly negative, but only
Is it?
126 reviews. So maybe
Maybe
there's
wait
like
on that, or not all the content's out yet or something. So people are buying it before it's all ready. Who knows? I'll have to look into that.
oh
Um,
whoa. It
what?
looks like they added a BR to it.
That doesn't sound right.
No,
Might
that can't be right. It just
It's
says
probably like
it
a
says
twist
Arms
on
Race
BR.
is just another PUBG knockoff with Borderlands guns.
Huh. Well, let's
Interesting.
research those because I'm actually interested. Actually, Borderlands BR sounds kind of fun, honestly. Um. Anyway, the other game I played a little bit this week, and I'm looking forward to playing more, is called. It's got a terrible name, but I think it's because they were sued. I think it was originally supposed to be called Gods and Monsters or something like that, or Monsters and Gods. I think I remember reading a story about like Monster Energy Drink suing them for using Monster in their name, but that doesn't now that I say it out loud, that doesn't make sense considering Monster Hunter is a thing. So maybe I'll look
Yeah.
that up when we're on our next topic. But anyway, it's called Immortals Phoenix Rising.
Yeah, I've
Um,
seen some gameplay of this. Very pretty.
right, it's pretty. It's an Ubisoft game, and the best way I can describe it is a mashup of Breath of the Wild, and Assassin's Creed, like Ubisoft open world gameplay. And honestly, I bought this game in response to playing Cyberpunk for a bit and just being like, I don't think I want to play this anymore. And I saw this was out there, and I watched a couple streamers play it, and like, if you're into like, it definitely hawks some gameplay like mechanics from Breath of the Wild. Like there's a glide mechanic and climbing and stamina. I wouldn't go so far as to say it is anywhere like close to being as good as Breath of the Wild. It's got some of that Ubisoft open world jank. Like I could tell right away that it was using the same engine as Odyssey and Valhalla, just in the way like the facial animations and like how the conversations ran in like the cutscenes. Which Greg, if you ever play this, you'll notice it too, and just be like, ah, okay, I see it. But it's kind of it's just kind of a twist on that same formula, like unleash you into a big open world. It follows like Greek mythology, Greek mythos, and like there's a bunch of different like quests you can go on and places you find that like they're actually just puzzles to solve, and the puzzles are actually kind of engaging. And they're not like the easiest puzzles in the world. Like you actually have to think through them, which I enjoy.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not
cool.
that far into
I like
it.
the
I'm only
mythology level of it too. That's,
right. It's not like it doesn't go that super deep into it. Like it's narrated by Prometheus and Zeus talking about. They're basically like narrating your story.
Yeah,
And
'cause isn't like the bit that like Prometheus and Zeus are like the game intro is that Prometheus and Zeus are having some sort of disagreement, and you are like this never tested soldier who is now trying to like save
basically like
mankind in a
like
way.
Prometheus is like you're gonna save the day where the gods can't, and Zeus
Right.
is just doubting you the whole time, and they're kind of like narrating it. So it's like definitely like a goofier tone, which can grate on some people, but for me, like again, for me, like I can get gritty, realistic gameplay from a bunch of different sources. So like this is like whatever, man. Like count me in.
2020 is gritty and ruthless enough. Like
Yeah,
that, I think that's where a lot of games this year have kind of fallen a bit short. Is that, you know, a lot of us are working from home, and we're seeing the same four walls, and then we get out of
right.
work, and it's like, do I really want to be beaten over the head with themes and tones that are dark and disparaging, or
Right.
do I just want to like collect gold coins and whatever,
I mean, so like
and
I
just
don't
have
want to
like
like
a more cheerful experience through gaming.
I don't want to
Um,
distill all these experiences down to the same thing, but like sometimes you want like organic stone ground pasta, like all the extra whatever, and sometimes you just want junk food. And sometimes for me this is like, I'm not saying this game is just gaming junk food, but it's like it's just a fun experience for me that I don't necessarily have to like, I don't have to sit and get sweaty and like over. It's actually just like an escape, an experience, and that's good enough for me.
Granted, I say this knowing fully well that Bug Snacks and this game have both come out this year.
Mm.
But with that being said, do you think that at times gaming has lost its touch with being too gritty in terms of a lot of the major releases that we see, whether it be, Sekiro or, the Assassin's Creed games or Ghost of Tsushima or Last of Us or um, Cyberpunk, where the gritty realism, now that things have gotten so advanced, is no longer feeling like the same technical marvel that simulating reality used to feel like. Like
Mm.
GTA 5 was mind blowing in a lot of ways because of the way that it played on real life and felt like you were in Los Angeles and was very
Right.
transporting in that respect. Do you think that sometimes we're taking it a bit too far in these games?
No, I wouldn't say we're taking it too far. I think it's just like, I don't know. I think it's finding the space.
Because the
Like video
humanity
game,
in me
like
says I can't kill a wolf in Valhalla because what happens is I love dogs and I go up to this wolf and I have to kill it because it's attacking me. And then I have this animation cutscene where I am just driving axe blow after axe blow in a close up and hearing a dog whelp.
yeah,
Why do I
wolf.
have
Yeah.
to have that? Yeah, wolf.
I
Why
mean,
do I have to
yeah.
have that in my video game?
I
Same
mean
with Ghost
those.
of Tsushima and these other games, and it's like, why are you doing this?
I
Like,
mean, there were
what
definitely
is thy
complaints when like
purpose?
the Last of Us came out too. Like, yeah, sometimes the violence is a little gratuitous. Like, I would agree, but I mean, in GTA, you can straight up like fly a plane into traffic. Like
But that
it's
doesn't feel
agency.
real. That doesn't feel real to me
Right. It definitely
because
doesn't.
it's the absurdities there. And a lot of games now, like The Last of Us, it feels too real. Like what does it look like in 5 years when, you know, again, fidelity increases and maybe we're in VR. Like where do we draw the line with gritty realism and the transporting vehicle of video games? Like I never am a fan of video games equals violence argument. That's, silly to me. But
Right.
as we trend to games that are really now actually, like, I feel like the old man in the room saying this, but like, man, like it was really disturbing. Like when I was playing Valhalla today, that's when I stopped playing, as I was like, I had to kill like 2 or 3 wolves, and every single time there's a slow mo cutscene of me driving an axe twice into this wolf's neck and hearing it whelp, and I was just like, man, really? Like why? Like, and I'm not trying
I
to sound like a wuss or anything, but like,
right.
do I really want that?
I
I
think
don't know.
I
Like,
think it comes down to like the consumer response. Like I think there's space in games for some of those like visceral experiences, but I think it's just part of like the trend of what sells a AAA game these days, and it's particle effects and splatter and like textures and like really getting to flex that new 4K technology, and like that's what
how real can we make
there's
these intestines look? It just, I
right.
don't know.
Yeah.
I really hope that like, again, I'm not, saying like this is like gonna be the end of me in some of these major titles that are just awesome, but there's a reason that Fortnite is winning where other games don't, and it's because, like, sometimes it's just too gritty. Sometimes it's like with Immortals, Phoenix Rising, and with Bug Snacks. I feel like there's something about a game having charisma, and I feel like a lot of these, like Ghost of Tsushima, for its beautiful scenery, it has charisma, but the game itself does not, because it is too gritty at times, and you're in these beautiful enchanted forests, but you are surrounded by blood.
Right. I mean, I think some like the other side of that argument is like that's part of the presentation, like the juxtaposition of like the violence and the like setting, right? And I don't know. That's I feel like it's a separate argument, but we've got a lot of these games like with their like for some reason photo mode has become this like huge emphasis that every game has to have, and you know, because everyone wants to share their screenshots and their videos. So like I think that also kind of like feeds into it, you know, like every
Yeah,
like even before Cyberpunk released, they're like, here's our photo mode. Everyone was like, whoa, like cool, like I can't wait to post all these pictures. It like creates this own like self perpetuating hype machine for their product. So they're gonna try and like make these perceivably like cool vistas and the spatter and the like I said, the particle effects, because you can like people are gonna do cool, like they're almost gonna use the game as like an advertising tool for itself.
yeah. I guess you know, with us having other stones to unchurn, just game developers, don't make me kill the dog.
Yeah, I don't get that either. I remember them talking about in The Last of Us as well, like why do we have to kill all these dogs? Like I get it, like it's one of those things where they're like one of the main criticisms of like The Last of Us was like you're just shoving this violence in my face like the whole
And it was
time
just
and telling
endless
me I'm
and
bad for
ruinous,
doing it. Like
really.
I get it. Yeah.
And it almost felt like you know, I almost feel at times, and because The Last of Us, and I guess, is this a good time to segue into talking about the Game Awards with The Last of Us 2?
I mean, if you we'll talk about Last of Us 2, but if we want to get to Cyberpunk, we'll probably skip over most of the Game Awards stuff today.
Okay. Just as a real quick note on, maybe
Yeah,
we'll do like the Game Awards and your Game Awards next time, and I will be the host of the Game Awards, and I'll just let you talk through them all because you played way more of these than I have.
yeah.
But the the issue that I had with The Last of Us is, and I know it's won a ton of these awards. Storyline narrative stuff aside, I don't want to get into that because I just it, besides the point. The game developers and directing staff of this game have won awards for it, and because of the thematics of the game of revenge is pain. However, I felt throughout playing that game and digesting it that they were trying to directly, in a way, criticize me as the player. There are times, and this happens, like, for instance, I don't know what you if you are a fan of the show Black Mirror, but I personally find it offensive in a way because I don't like when artistic design is based around trying to prove your point, because you control the art that is proving the point. You are not taking it in an objective standpoint, and you are almost force feeding me a message through your own cruelty. And you are saying, no, this is the theme of revenge is cruelty. And revenge, yes, there is a lot of pain within the feeling of revenge. It's not a happy feeling unless you get revenge. But point being, um, you know, I really I I don't like rewarding that storytelling.
I I don't know. I
It
guess
it felt very
I think I need you to like think through like I I need to hear the argument like a little more thought out, because like when you say Black Mirror and like I kind of get where you're
sure.
coming
So
from.
Black Mirror says to you, like, there's different episodes. I've seen like 3 of them and I just can't watch anymore. But it like there was this one episode that I saw where you were locked in a jail cell with a screen, and you like earned like social credits by like winning, and like you'd go on like game shows and stuff, and it was a criticism of, you know, how addicted we are to technology and the reward systems within that, and that we're kind of locked within our digital prisons. And to me, it's like, yeah, but the world is just like this now. This is what the world is. This is not going anywhere. You're criticizing people for being too locked into their technology, but every day I can't work without booting up my computer if I want to read the news, the best place for me to find it is my phone, and that informs me about the real world. It's not that I'm being absent of the real world. I still go on hikes. I
I
still
know,
go
but
out,
I think you can
and the
have
majority of
I
people
think it's
do
more
that.
commentary than it is criticism, though. You know, like you can
But
still
the
have a
way they do
commentary
it is
about
from like
something without
it feels like it's from a
criticizing something.
smarter than thou perspective.
So you just don't like the way it's presented, basically.
Exactly. And that's how I felt about The Last of Us 2 is they they took their feelings behind those emotions of revenge or um just those dark and kind of ominous tones, dark and ominous. Love Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I can't say that without thinking of that movie, but um they took those tones and they built it into this story that just felt almost purposeless except for them to beat you over the head with beating people over the head, beating dogs over the head, just to show you despair. And it just didn't feel like it had any sort of purpose. And I guess revenge doesn't have purpose, and maybe that's their point. But the same point, I didn't need that, and I didn't want that. And that's not like the experience of that game. Just it didn't line up with what I would ever play again, other than the fact that like I got so much about how content about how great the game is and and I love the first one. um and it took that first game that was about the story about Joel saving Ellie and finding a cure to this madness that's creating this
It wasn't just
pandemic.
about
And
Joel saving Ellie, though. It was about like Ellie saving Joel too, kind of. You know.
yeah, and like that had a beautiful story with darkness. There was no beauty in this game, it was just misery. And I understand that from like telling that, but I don't think that a whole game or story should be based on that, because although yes, it was powerful, yes, but it just felt like they forced it into this long and arduous adventure that was very empty other than that tone. And I just don't know why I felt compelled to play it for that long. I just powered through it. I didn't like it, but I powered through it because I can't not finish one of those quote unquote top tier games.
Mhm.
But I just felt like I don't understand why that was what I was playing. The world felt so empty. There was nothing to explore unless you wanted a bandage. All you did was just bludgeon people and try to like for me it was just bludgeon and power your way through it.
I
It was like
wouldn't
trying
say
to
I
push through a
completely.
crowded mall.
I would say I don't completely. I think there are criticisms of the game, definitely, but I don't think I completely agree. Like, I think what I do agree on is I think like thematically, like they definitely did beat you over the head with what like the message they were trying to portray. Like there's more nuance. It was more balanced in the first Last of Us, right? In the second one, you're right. Like it basically is like revenge is bad, you know, or like I'm distilling it down from what they intend as their deeper message. But yeah, it's basically like revenge means nothing. Like what did you lose everything if you just become singular in your goal. Um, but I think my view of the game like kind of softened given time and space away from it. Like, is it my game of the year? Preview? No, it's not. It's definitely not. Is it in my top 5? Probably. I think it's a pretty like I think it's a technical marvel. I don't necessarily agree that the world's like empty. I think there was a ton of different color. Like I had a ton of time to like I explored the different areas, and like I think Naughty Dog does a pretty good job of like peppering in uh like different sub stories. What was the one in the first Last of Us? Do you remember, Greg? It was like about the like security guard, and they were the whole everyone was living like in the sewers, and you find all these notes about like the outbreak slowly spreading in that
Yeah,
colony.
you
You know what
found
I'm
like
talking about?
a underground like kind of survivor camp.
And there was like a
It was right
drawing the
after I
kid
think you
made
met the
in Pittsburgh or whatever. Like
yeah,
you met that other
you met the
pair,
guy and his son who got bit, and then
brother.
I think after that you kind
Right.
of found like another abandoned camp area.
Right.
And
So let me just get through my part.
Yeah,
Quick.
Sorry. I didn't really have more to add.
So like I think Last of Us 2, they still pepper in a decent amount of that, to the point where I would go into like some of the abandoned shops and abandoned storefronts and kind of look around, and you get some of that world color. But to your point, I agree that like some of the messaging was kind of ham-fisted. Like they almost punish the player at the end. Like they're so dedicated to getting their message out that was almost punishing the player for, like, there was no agency for the player, which, maybe from a dev standpoint, they're saying like, yeah, there isn't supposed to be agency. This isn't like a Fallout where you get to choose your story. Like this is the story, right? Like separating yourself from the character you're controlling, right? Like you're not Ellie or Abby. You're just like living through Ellie or Abby. But I think for all its faults, it's still an okay game. I think I think our disagreements are really in that I think it's mechanically like, and I like the gameplay, like if you treat it like a straight up action game is actually pretty awesome. Like if they come out with a multiplayer for The Last of Us 2, I'll probably play it. But where I will agree with you on is like their use of violence was so gratuitous. It was almost like, dude, like I get it. Like pump the brakes. This killing dogs is bad. I know. Like you don't have to tell me twice.
And also, it just was weird that in the midst of the thematics of the game, where they're trying to beat you over the head with revenge is an empty and terrible cycle, you kill so many people.
Yeah.
And Abby kills so many people. And then at the end, the person who initially sought revenge, Abby, just walks away from it. And it's just like, what?
I know. It's crazy.
Like, oh my goodness.
I think like we've talked about this too, Greg. I wish
they're conflicted in their own telling of this, and it felt like they got to the end and they were just like,
yeah.
I don't know.
We talked about this, but I just wish that I wish The Last of Us 2 just didn't have Ellie or Joel in it. It was just somewhere else in the States. Like you did all the world building, like make me care about some other people instead.
I think that's what Last of Us 3 has to be. If they do make another game, I think it has to do that, because I don't think anyone wants to revisit this storyline. Like even people who liked it, I don't think they want more of Abby, and I don't think that they want more.
I don't want more
Ellie
either. Yeah.
Because
like leave them alone.
all that they tried to like in this game, all they convinced me of is it actually speaking of zombies and zombie based material. It reminds me a lot of how I feel about one of my least favorite shows, and I'm stalling here because I can't think of the name of it. It's the one on AMC with all the zombies.
Walking Dead.
Walking Dead. I hate that show. And the reason being is you watch it for a bit, and then you realize you don't care about any of these people anymore. And as I was playing that game, I was like, you know what? I don't care about any of these people anymore. Because they literally beat the character that I think like that had the best Ellie and Joel's relationship was so whimsical. Like whimsical is probably a bad word for it, but like just like the cute daddy daughter sort of stuff that they had, and Joel's background of losing his daughter, and just the way that relationship was postured in that first game, and then having Tommy and Joel and just they really destroyed the likability or the way that I viewed the characters in that game, I guess.
Yeah. And I don't know, I think I guess that was part of their point. Like Joel was not a good dude necessarily. No. Like he took Ellie under his wing, but yeah, he killed many a people for his own selfish reasons, like, so in some ways he kind of did get what was coming to him. In other ways he was just he let his own selfishness like cloud his judgment, and could have potentially doomed humanity because of it. So they were showing the fault. Like, I think the concept of the story of people coming back to get revenge on Joel from the first game like kind of makes sense, but I just don't think it's a story that really like needed to be told. I guess is my only my point. Like, didn't need like
Agreed.
yeah, like I get it, but I didn't need to know that happened. You know, it's kind of where I'm at. And you didn't need to like show me more like moments between him and Ellie and like getting their relationship back on track.
I'm with you on that.
To like drive that home. It's like I know. That said, I still think. I mean, we've already said spoilers in here without saying too much about, but the very last scene with Ellie and Joel, like I thought that was, like that resonated with me. It was pretty powerful. Like it informed some of the revenge and stuff. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I think the thing we could probably agree on is that it still was kind of like a technical marvel, right? Like it looked good. I would just love to see them. I'm ready for another like Uncharted, you know? Give me a treasure hunting psychopath I can get behind that murders a bunch of people and doesn't. Yeah. And we don't talk about the context, you know. Just give me.
I mean, every game that's based in, you know, gunplay or sword and sandals type of game, gonna slaughter a bunch of people. I mean, if I go and buy Uplay, I have like 1,000 kills already in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I'm only like, you know, whatever hours into it. But the gruesome nature in which some of these games are positioning that violence, I have to play it still. And, you know, it's just like, sometimes it just, maybe again, it's just me being a little bit soft about it, but it just feels gratuitous at times.
I mean, it kind of overstays its welcome, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think they could have delivered that message in a shorter, like, but it's almost the pressure of games, right? Like, you almost have to introduce a 27-hour story.
Yeah.
Like 27, 30 hours, whatever it was. But it's just like, you could have told that story in 15 and I probably wouldn't have felt as bad about it. Like, I wouldn't have felt like I was just murdering people the whole time, you know? So,
I already talk about the
speaking
technical
of murder,
marvel.
Yeah, speaking of murder and technical marvels, a game came out recently that we've been alluding to talking about, and a pretty big news story dropped last night. So, of course, as I'm sure you guys are all great at reading into context clues, we're talking about Cyberpunk 2077. And the news, of course, is Sony delisting Cyberpunk 2077 on their digital storefronts and offering a full refund to almost anyone who wants it. I actually just read today that Best Buy also extended their refund policy to even folks with open boxes till the 21st of December, which is kind of wild. I think we'll still see a ton of people who are kind of hard done by come Christmas time, like, because, you know, all these refund policies run out before Christmas. I mean, these are companies after all. They're not gonna take care of you, but still, like, pretty wild news and somewhat unprecedented. I don't think Sony's ever pulled like a big AAA game off their storefront before. Like, you look at what happened to No Man's Sky. They were bunch of bad press, but they survived that, and, you know, they even won an award at the Game Awards for like persistent game or something like that. Like, that game is at a much healthier spot. You think of like Arkham Knight, which WB I think pulled from Steam years back, but they did that themselves voluntarily because the port was broken. But I don't think we've ever actually seen like a storefront itself delist the game. So I don't know. Like, I think my note here just says like, where do we start? Where do we start, Greg?
Well, let's start here. If you want to learn about any company and you just want to see like what news does to it, just take a look at their ticker on the stock market. People have been short selling CD Projekt Red like crazy. They lost $1 billion since the release of Cyberpunk.
Right. In their valuation. The valuation of CD Projekt Red.
No, people have just been dropping their stock like crazy because of this. And the as a precursor to the Game Awards thing, there is a precedent here with No Man's Sky, as you alluded to as well. And No Man's Sky figured it out, and I was really sad actually that, and again, not to overstep next podcast, but there is one award for best community support, which they did not win. Fall Guys won, but they 100% just deserve to win that award because after falling so short, they have done so much to make No Man's Sky a viable game. I do not play it, but there's a YouTuber, internet historian who does some goofy stuff, does some good stuff, and they did one on No Man's Sky and just the full timeline story of it. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend it.
Mhm.
It was an awesome watch. And just to see what they've done to rehab what was one of the, like, before Cyberpunk, the most colossal
I
failure
actually
I can
played it
remember.
a couple weeks ago. It's definitely better. It's still like a survival game. It's like one of those, but yeah, the rehab.
You can actually
that
see
game.
other people in the game now.
Right.
But you know, you can't even launch this game on the majority of copies that were sold. You can't. I mean, the bugs are endless. I mean, I'm looking at your notes here, and you know, I mean,
Yeah,
if you
so
want to run through them real quickly.
sure, yeah. So I kind of like this is stolen shamelessly off a post on Reddit. I'm sorry I don't have the username up for credit here. I think some of it was crowdsourced, but and some of it was just other stuff from videos I've been watching this week. Like they had mentioned like just they're just a bunch of like so here's the crux of it for me. Like for a lot of people on consoles, especially the base consoles, and even CD Projekt Red has said like, yeah, we probably should have paid more attention to these, which is a freaking wild statement when these games were initially announced for the consoles that they're busted on. Like there isn't even a PS5 version or an Xbox Series X version. These are the PS4 versions of the game, you know. Like let's put aside the crashing for a second. There are just all sorts of features that were promised to be in the game that just either aren't or completely half-baked or not even half-baked. And man, I know we probably sound like just these huge pessimists on this cast today, but like I just don't like I think Sony like nuked this game on their storefront is almost a message to like other developers, like you can't get away with this. Like I'm pretty sure like CD Projekt Red, or at least I've read that CD Projekt Red was basically like help get this pushed through certification for the storefronts by basically being like, yes, we'll have it ready in time, and it just wasn't ready still. So this is definitely a huge message to other developers, like that you can't just get away with this. Furthermore, I don't know that they actually had a seat at the table with Sony when they hadn't discussed at all when they posted out that ill-conceived Twitter message that was like, hey, if you want a refund for Cyberpunk 2077, just contact Xbox or contact Microsoft or Sony. And I don't think Sony was prepped for any of that. And in response, pulled their game off the store. So I've been seeing a ton of people who are playing on, you know, top end PCs saying, I'm not having any crashes or problems or bugs. That's great. Like I'm happy for you guys. I've heard like the main story itself and like if you push through the main quest line, like it's fine, but it's so clear that like there are systems in this game that are just like plagued no matter where you're playing them. There's no cop system. The cops just spawn. Like I watched a video where someone was just like, let me test this. They were on a roof, shot someone down on the ground, and then cops just started spawning on the roof. This one I can personally attest to. There's almost no NPC AI whatsoever. Like they all react in the same way no matter what. You throw a grenade, they all just jump out of their car and cower. A few of them run maybe. If you stop your car in the middle of the street, they'll just stay there and they'll let cars pile up forever. Like there's no pathing for them to get around you. Like there's no thought. Like even in GTA, if you bump a car, it'll try and like drive away, or eventually they'll get tired of waiting behind you and drive around you. Like that's just like not in this game. Like, which seems like such a small thing, but this is really like, this isn't only death by 1,000 cuts. This is just like death by 1,000 guillotines, it feels like.
Did you see that if you're like in the street and a car stops to not hit you, if you turn away from the car and turn back, it's a different car?
Yeah, like there's these weird like I saw where someone threw a grenade like and made everyone cower. They turned and looked to their right and then looked left again and everything had despawned. It's just there's all sorts of like weird draw distance issues. There's a couple places on console where like there's like a certain street that just like doesn't load in right if you don't drive slow, so people are just falling through the map. Um that's just like bugs and like general performance issues that I've been seeing with the game. On top of that, like there were promises like, oh yeah, there's going to be dynamic weather. At the beginning of the game, you pick like a life path that's like corpo, nomad, or like street kid or something, and they had that it was communicated that these like life paths would have some sort of impact on your game, and the impact it has on your game is like a 15 to 30-minute intro mission. You just start in a different part of like Night City or outside Night City. And then when you finish that mission, you get this like, it's weird. It's like almost all this content that was supposed to be in the game, but like they didn't have time to build it in. There's this like 30 to 45 second clip where it just plays all these random actions of you and your buddy like getting into stuff and like meeting people and like getting in gunfights and jumping someone, but you don't actually do any of that. You don't experience it. You don't know who any of these people are. And then you just like wake up in your apartment and like you're just supposed to know who the fuck you are. And people are calling you who know who you are and you don't know who any of them are. And it's just like, what is going on here? Like I played it for a few hours and I was just like, something is like, something feels so, this was before like there was this like huge reaction to it, but like I played it the day it came out and I was just like, something feels wrong. Like the world just feels kind of dead. Like things aren't reacting in ways like I would expect at all. Like people aren't reacting in ways I think that make any sense. It's just like there's some decisions. I remember I made my character really goofy when I started playing. Like I was sitting there with Alex and we thought it'd be funny, and I looked it up. I can't even change my hairstyle. Like there's no, like we're talking about cyberpunk, this like genre that's all about like style and neon and augmenting your body, and you can't even like those functions aren't in the game. Like after you use this like character creator where you can adjust your like penis size, like what the fuck does that even matter? Like it doesn't. That's the it's just a headline. It like all the it's almost like all these different parts of development, like all these different projects were just happening independently of each other, and they forgot that they needed to make these systems interact, or there should be like a purpose behind those decisions. So I mean, it's just very clearly a game that was not ready. But it's either like shareholders or board members who are like, we need to push this out in upper management, or upper management folks not properly conveying like, hey, this is like not ready. Like they just, I think they talked about this game way too early, way too early. Took way too many interviews. Like for as much shit that is like we give Rockstar for all their shark card bullshit, like they really don't show anything until it's like ready. Like Red Dead wasn't shown until it was ready, really. GTA Online wasn't shown until it was pretty much ready, and then what you saw was pretty much what you got. So like I just don't, there are a ton of question marks here, and man, I would love to watch like an hour long movie about the development of this game and like what went wrong. Like it's quite frankly, it's a mess. And I feel for the people that worked on this game too. I know engineers, I know developers, like they don't want to put out a bad product. And I bet there were a ton of them who were like, it's not ready yet. Like it's not ready. And they crunched so hard, like all the news about crunch to get this game out. Like I feel for them because honestly, it feels like their leadership team failed them. And
yeah.
I feel like I was just reading.
People, I don't feel for the company.
Right. That's exactly it. Like you feel for the people, not the entity itself.
Yeah, because I mean, imagine how lambasted they would have been if this was EA.
Oh
like
yeah. I mean, they're getting
worse than it is now.
Right.
And this is, I mean, the reason that like so No Man's Sky, in their defense, with how crappy that release was, it was a tiny studio. It wasn't even a studio, really. It was like two people that started that game, and then it got bigger. And they bit off more than they can chew, and they had a guy that was the front man that just couldn't shut up and was just overhyping it, and it was just a classic in over your head situation. This is the same team that released Witcher 3, which is regarded as one of the best open world action adventure games of all time.
Right.
And they have the resources, they have the means, and it feels like they wrote a paper at 5 a.m., turned it in at 7 with no one proofreading it.
Right. Well,
And
here's the
it's
thing.
just
There
like,
probably were
what?
testers and stuff. There were definitely like testers in QA, and probably everyone was saying it wasn't ready. I mean, this is a game that was delayed 3 times, right?
They could have. I mean, Skull and Bones still isn't even out. You know,
I know.
like they could
I
have
don't know
delayed
if that
this thing
game's
until
ever
the
gonna come
nether.
out.
I don't, unless
Right.
they needed the money from
Right.
people buying it. Which,
Well, it's also they had all sorts of marketing deals in place, probably, you know, like merchandising. Like, look at all there's like Halo Infinite stuff out in the wild, you know, that supposedly has codes for Halo Infinite. The budget for like just all the packaging that was going to be going out for Cyberpunk was probably insane. It was almost like they all it's a prison of their own making, right? I'm not excusing it, but it's like there are probably a ton of decisions that went into like, well, we just have to put it out, you know?
yeah, it's just sad because the
I wanted to enjoy
the
this
real
game.
truth of the matter is that, I mean, the amount missing from this game to get it to a level in which I will actually boot it up, half a year. I don't really know how that works.
I know. I'm thinking about putting it on the shelf for a year. Like they have to do what No Man. They have to do what Hello Games did, and just like
it's just so sad,
right?
because it was the game that was promised. You know,
The game that was exact. Like I want to love this game, and it just feels like thematically, like it feels like it's unfortunate.
What a perfect
like
game to get
I
lost
love
in during the winter, where you don't want to
Right.
go outside and you can't because
to
it's quarantine and COVID.
cap off a shitty year, like whatever, man.
Yeah,
like
and
let's just get into
lost in Night
Cyberpunk.
City. Like
Right.
Valhalla, for everything that it did well as a game, will never be that game that you just go back to after you beat it and
Right.
explore
It definitely
more.
won't for me.
I mean, it might be for some people, but I just don't see myself feeling that way about that game.
Me
But
neither.
Night City had this allure to it, and it's been a while since I've had a single player first person shooter game that was like this, that I really just was hyped about. And I wasn't even a percentage point as hyped as the majority of people were. I
No,
was
me
excited
neither.
as a video game player, but other than that, I was just excited.
Yeah, I tempered my
Um,
expectations. I was like, but my expectations were still like, well, like the floor of this game is Fallout 4, right? And I had fun playing that. It's not Fallout 3, but you know, like I don't think it's gonna be like this 12 out of 10 game, but like Fallout 4 was fine. You know, it's this open world I could get into. There'd be some jank, but like, yeah, like I want some Blade Runner ass shit. But the problem is like, I feel like even thematically this game isn't Blade Runner. It's like Blade Runner in style, but it's almost like they went for this over the top, like I said, like we were talking about The Last of Us and how they like pounded you over the head. This feels like the same thing, where it's just like this ultra violent and literally ultraviolet, like just setting for you to like jump into, and it lacks all nuance.
I forget who said this or wrote this, but it feels like if your dad had to describe Cyberpunk to you, what it would look like.
Right, it's like
I feel like-
hypersexual. Like, yes, there are hypersexual themes in Cyberpunk, but like that's just, I don't know, something about it just there's a lot going on with this game. Like I can forgive all that if it ran. So yeah, I think I'm gonna give it half a year or a year, or just wait for some like huge press release where it's like, here's what we did and here's
Are you
what's
gonna return?
changed. I already requested return on PlayStation. I have it on
I did on
on
Steam.
PC. It was gifted to me, so I'll probably just keep it there and maybe like check in on it every once in a while. But yeah, I just I don't know, now they're like, I don't know if you saw, but Bloomberg, Jason Schreier, who's one of the like bigger reporters in games, he posted. Here's the article title: Cyberpunk game maker faces hostile staff after failed launch, with apparently like devs basically being like, we knew this was going to happen. Like why? Like we need to talk about like our working conditions and what's happening. All of that. So it seems like things are going from bad to worse for CD Projekt Red. What I will say is like even Witcher 3 was kind of buggy when it came out. It wasn't anything to this extent. Like there was a ton of stuff that they did to make The Witcher 3 what it is. This is just in a worse jumping off point. And the thing is, it's like I'm not gonna disparage them for trying to do a launch in a pandemic. I'm sure that added its own challenges, but like again, it goes from leadership down. Like I feel like all that like someone I guarantee you there are plenty of like great people in that company who worked really hard in this game who were just like, this is not, we cannot put this out. Like this is going to be suicide. So like there's some people that are like probably unfortunately right this week,
I think if it was a Steam only release, I don't think that it would have the issues that it does. My biggest issue with it is the console variant of it, because from a lot of different things that I've seen, and like there are a lot of issues that are persistent between the two platforms, but the things that I've watched on it, because I haven't played it because I wasn't able to last week, and then with everything that I've read about it, it just didn't seem like I should start it until it's in a good position. And from what I've read about it, like a lot of the quest lines and different things within the game are actually really good and have a lot of
Yeah, that's what I've
variation
heard
compared
too.
to other open world games.
Yeah.
The biggest gripe that I have is that you sold copies to people who never had a shot of playing it. And
Right.
that just feels so wrong on a moral level that no matter how good it might be on your RTX 3090, doesn't matter anymore because
3090.
you completely misrepresented a product to the masses. And
I just I yeah,
I'm just so sick of like that being something that we find.
that's kind of what I was saying at the
Meanwhile,
top of
Ghost
the
of
story.
Tsushima, they released a great game for PS4. Looks even better on PS4 Pro. And then they just for free added in this whole new mode to the game
Right.
and built on top of a strong base game that at times was redundant. And sure, Cyberpunk doesn't have that same redundant quest line, sort of plug and play type of quest building like Ghost of Tsushima does. Allegedly, I haven't played through it, so I'm speaking all off of the words of others and reformatting them within the context of this podcast. But with that being said, at the same point, like people just can't access your game, and there's just things in there that were supposed to be that aren't, and the systems within the game don't necessarily work anywhere near what was intended.
I mean
Just
that's what I was saying at the top of the story. Like it's not like this is a PS5 game that was made backwards compatible for the PS4 game. Like this is a PS4 game and an Xbox One X game that just doesn't run well on the hardware it was made for. So like hearing CD Projekt Red be like, "Oh yeah, we probably should have spent more time on those platforms," is like mind-boggling to me. Because like the next gen versions of this game weren't even slated to come out until next year. And now who knows if they will even come out next year. Probably this time next year if we're lucky, Like how like we're talking about the consoles and the platforms that were the only ones in existence when you announce this game and it doesn't run there. Like how is that acceptable in any how like I don't understand that at all. And even still, like I had a buddy who was playing it on PS5 and it's just crashing for him constantly on PS5. So like you can't even get it working on next gen hardware. So like if we're talking about a game that, like you said, needs a 3090 to run, why are you releasing the game? Like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and again, the interesting thing too, and and I'd like to hear some insight from people that might have more experience within the game than both of us do, because it doesn't sound like you have too many hours in. And like I mentioned, I don't have any.
Yeah.
Is the game on Steam has 200K reviews and it's 78% positive. So if anyone listening, has some feedback on
Yeah,
it that
Bread
can
Radio
kind of give
Live.
us some more depth, I'd really appreciate it because, between reviews, YouTube, whatever you want to look at, and what I've kind of witnessed within the game, and from Reddit, whether it be low sodium cyberpunk, which is like the Reddit who enjoys the game,
I didn't
and
realize I'll have to look at that.
yeah, and there are some cool things that I've seen in there,
Yeah.
and on Steam I've read a bunch of different reviews that give me
Yeah.
mixed feelings about maybe, maybe it's something where you just have to treat this game as an alpha, and the issue again just circles back to the console version just maybe shouldn't have been released then if this is going to be treated like an alpha, and I guess maybe that's what they're trying to kind of posture as now, by refunding it en masse.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's
to
just
your
sad
point,
nonetheless.
like you said, mostly positive on Steam right now. Um so yeah, like if you want to enjoy, like, again, to Greg's point, would totally love to hear from you guys. breadradiolive@gmail.com about your experience on PC. Maybe I'll download it on PC and give it a whirl. I think the bigger thing for me, like I was saying, is just some of the missing content that I was kind of expecting in the game. It almost feels like, I feel like if you treat it as like a linear single player game, that might be the way to do it right now, if that makes sense. Unless this like expansive, like immersive open world. Um, I don't know. I'd love to hear some more opinions. I don't want to become just like part of this like hate cycle for the game, because I'm certainly not. If I'm coming off that way, I'm certainly not trying to do that.
Yeah.
I'm more just kind of questioning, like, I think my questions are like around the business practices that led to the release. Because like I said, I don't think anyone ever intends to release a bad game.
I mean, this is like a defining moment of crunch, right?
Right, totally. Like,
Within a pandemic
how can
as well.
like, yeah, within a pandemic, how can you demand like 6-day work weeks from your employees, and then like force like and then release this game in the state that it is? Like, it's pretty wild to me.
And again, if they needed to, go ahead and do it to like rev up pre-orders, and if it was about money, they should have just titled it. If like they had to have seen the errors, they should have just said, we're doing an, like, we don't, to our fans, you guys deserve to get into this game. We're going to release our current version as an alpha. There's so much more with this pandemic. It's such an easy, watering hole to go to blame it on the pandemic, blame it on 2020, and just say, because we don't want you guys to be left out of Night City for any longer, we're going to release an alpha version. The game is not where we want it to be. We apologize, but if you'd like to buy it, if you'd like to start playing it, here it is.
Yeah. You're speaking like a consumer, though, Greg. They'd stand to lose money on that, especially like if it comes out and it's not what they said. Like, they had people coming out this January saying the game was done and complete.
But at this point, though, if they're going to give refunds to everybody left and right, what's the difference?
I don't think they ever. I think their leadership, their board, completely failed them. There's no way they anticipated this was going to happen. But like, when this thing happens, also, I'm just like, how did you not think this was going to happen? Like, have you ever been on the internet? Do you know how long people have been stuck in their house? Like,
well, I guess it goes
like to. Yeah, go ahead.
I guess it goes back to what I looked into last week, where I pulled up. Let me just pull up the exact number here again.
I need to. I need some Bread Radio hold music.
Where in Assassin's Creed Odyssey on Steam.
Oh, yeah.
The trophy for beating the first mission was not completed by 28% of buyers.
What's it at now? I'm curious.
I'd
really love to see that.
Up.
No. Okay. Well,
1 second. So An Odyssey in the Making, complete episode 1. 76.4% of players have this achievement. So if 23.6% of players haven't even beaten the first mission of the game, if you release this game and it sucks, you're at least, if there were 8 million pre-orders of the game, I believe, and whatever the hype buy was around it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no matter what, it sounds like at least 23.6% of players are not going to refund it. At the very least, even play it. Apparently,
Right. Yeah, I wonder what
you
they
know,
do actually lose from this. Like how many people are refunding.
the Battle of 300 in Odyssey. It's the first opening credit scene, essentially. 10% of people haven't even played that. So maybe that's why you release it, because what's the worst that can happen? The people that returned it, they'll just come back and get it if it gets a hype release. If it gets a, maybe that's their play is when they, because they've already announced they're going to release a free DLC. So if that free DLC comes out in February, or if there's a dead spot in the calendar for other games, and everyone's like, oh, they fixed that, the other stuff, it's all good, and this DLC comes out, they re-jump the advertising campaign, and everyone's back on board, and they move forward. Maybe that's the play.
Yeah. We will watch Cyberpunk's development with great interest. Its ongoing development. That's for certain. If you're out there and you enjoy the game, again, don't take this as criticism of you. Enjoy the game. I hope you are, honestly. I wish I could right now. But I'd love to hear more about your experience with the game, and you can send that into breadradiolive@gmail.com. If you agree, you can write in breadradiolive@gmail.com. If you have something totally unrelated to Cyberpunk you want to talk to, like Game of the Year, which we're going to be discussing soon, write into breadradiolive@gmail.com. Be helpful finding my own email address, huh? If you'd like to support the show monetarily, you can do so at patreon.com/breadradio. Any and all assistance is greatly appreciated. It helps keeping us doing what we're doing. Really appreciate you guys so far for all the support we've already garnished on that site. And if you're not able to do so or don't want to, no harm, no foul. But the best thing you can do for us is tell a friend about the show. Really do appreciate that. Just getting the word out is super helpful. We're actually going to be doing some promos soon with a couple of brother and sister podcasts to get ourselves out there. So keep an eye out. I've listened to some of the shows that we're going to be talking about here, and I think some of you guys will really like them. I think it's cool, kind of like supporting some smaller casts like ourselves. But yeah, that's upcoming. Greg, thanks for chatting with me today. Next week, we're going to talk about Game of the Year. I'm not sure what day we'll do it because next Friday is Christmas. I don't know if I'll have time, but we'll figure something out. I'm sure. I was going to do it myself. Do you want to join? You down for Game of the Year?
There's a lot of games in there that I'd be here to join in on the conversation. I'm always around.
All right, cool. So keep an eye out on the Twitterverse at its.
And if
bread
you have
time.
any games for you pay you pick we play. Wait, you pick we play. That's way better than pay we play.
And it's better than saying you pay we play and then having the caveat, but you don't actually have to pay.
But I kind of like that too. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, it'd be cool if we could do
if you have any,
I wish we had the following that we could do something for charity. Like I'd love to do something like that.
Yeah, and just send it. The only caveat I have is probably I think like $10 maximum on Steam is probably right.
We ain't made a big bucks.
And just like one sentence of why we should play it.
Yeah.
And
Greg and I are going to work on some other YouTube content in the upcoming weeks as well. I'm really excited about that. So, again, guys, this has been Bread Radio episode 18. Thanks so much for joining the show. As you know how we always end it, be cool to one another. Have a good night.